Okay, good morning. Like you said, I'm Tyler Pearson. I'm in my second year as a K-5 technology integrationist, and I was lucky enough to bring along two classroom teachers with me today, and we are each going to do our own little segment. Matt's going to present about Skype, and then we're going to chime in when we have something. Michael's going to talk about Quizlet. I'm going to talk about the last two, VR and AR.
All right, so I'll go ahead and get us started. My name is Matt Duncan. I teach third grade in Knoxville. I've been teaching third grade for 6 years now, I believe. So love incorporating technology, and Skype is probably one of the main things that I enjoy or I like using in my classroom. I've always found that it makes the day go a lot faster for me, and my students really, really love and enjoy using Skype. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we use it in my room. So first off, as I've sat around and thought and talked with other teachers, some teachers in my building in our district, some different reasons why I use Skype or why we like Skype. We ended up finding Jed Dearberry, one of the Skype master teachers, 10 reasons why to use Skype. So a lot of these that he has on there we kind of thought were some reasons that we enjoy or why we use them. The number one up there builds classroom community. That's one thing that is interesting to sit back and watch when my students are using Skype. Just kind of how they come together and work together depending on what we're doing or how we're using Skype. A couple other ones on there that I feel are big or important. It invites collaboration skills, either with your own students or people or classrooms around the world. It grows your communication skills. It's interesting getting to watch students communicate with students in different parts of the U.S. Or in different parts of the world, and just kind of how they figure out how to communicate. Utilizes innovative technology, pulling in a lot of those 21st century skills that we focus on in our district, real world scenarios, and then last one I think a really big one on here, number 8, creates problem solvers. One thing, and we'll talk about this later on, we do mystery Skypes in my classroom, and that's basically a 21 question game where the students really have to focus on logical reasoning and thinking and problem solving to figure out where that other class is located. So these are just a few reasons why we use Skype or why we like it. The next thing we're going to talk about deals with the Skype in the Classroom website. We're going to go to this link, and you have the links as well. But this is just a really good kind of starter place to go when you're trying to find some more information and learn more about how to use Skype and all the different ways that you can use Skype in your classroom. So the first thing that you can take a look at later on your own time if you'd like, or this afternoon if you're sticking around. These 6 tabs right here are full of tons of resources, documents, slideshows, presentations that other Skype teachers have done. But just a really good place to start to kind of give you some more information on how to use Skype and ways you can use Skype in your room. Some more resources. If you're looking at mystery Skyping, this is a really good place to kind of start. It gives you, like I said, there's more documents here. There's a video that you can watch. If you scroll down, there's just more resources, basically. So like I said, if you're looking to find different ways that you can use Skype in your room, this would be a great place to start for you to check out. The next part I want to talk about are 5 different ways that you can use Skype in your classroom. And you can see them listed here. There's virtual field trips, Skype lessons, Skype collaborations. There's a game called Mystery Skype, and then there's guest speakers. So here in a little bit, I'll show you some examples of how we've actually done or used these in the classroom. But basically, just like it says, virtual field trips. If you click on that link, it'll give you a list of different field trips that your class can take. And they basically cover all of our subjects that we cover in our classroom or my classroom. So it's really nice to use those and kind of get outside of your classroom. Skype lessons, those are actual lessons that Skype is coming up with, and they're live learning activities. So kind of like, it'd be like a Facebook Live where more than one student or more than one classroom can log in, and you can follow these different lessons to see what Skype's kind of covering and talking about. Let's see. Skype collaboration, that's where they're lessons that Skype with, where you're able to work with other classes around the world There's some of these lessons that are just a one-time thing. Other ones are reoccurring. They continue throughout the year. Also, some of these deal with different holidays or events that go on throughout the year as well. So kind of neat and something to check out for some fun things. The last two, and we'll talk more about these in a second. Mystery Skype, like I said, it's a game of 21 questions or 20 questions. And then guest speakers, another good way to utilize and use Skype. So right now what I want to do, I want to show you some ways that we actually use Skype in my classroom. Next one. So, I'll give some examples. I have some videos and some pictures I'll show, but these are just some ways that I've used Skype in the classroom in my room. So first way, mystery Skype, asking an expert. So depending on what subjects or what topics you're covering, you could always send an email. I love to use Twitter, send a lot of tweets out to people to come and talk with our class or Skype with our class. Mystery number Skypes, presentations, guest speakers, practice interviews. We've done some Reader's Theater stuff before with Skype, so parents can actually watch their son or daughter do some Reader's Theater stuff throughout the day. Collaboration and virtual field trips. So the first one we're going to talk about is mystery Skyping. So mystery Skype, it provides an engaging way for classrooms to introduce themselves to each other and then work together. So it's just a short little video kind of showing and explaining what a mystery Skype is.
In my classroom, I'll grasp onto any technology that can expand the kids' possibilities. Greeter, come on up. Learning comes from a teacher that's willing to take a risk and do something new and bring in these powerful tools.
Hi, welcome to Mystery Skype.
One of the key tools we're using right now is Skype to connect with other classrooms. It's so powerful to connect them beyond these four walls.
Are you in the United States?
Mystery Skype's a chance for the kids to connect with other students around the world.
Are you east of Mississippi?
Runners, if
No.
you need to. It's a challenging game for them. They have to critically think.
It helps the kids understand other cultures and other countries.
Are you in the U.S.? No, we're not. Are you somewhere in Mexico? Yes.
It's a powerful tool to see kids learning from each other. Hey, Mateo, come on over, bring those maps. To see their critical thinking process is far better than any test I can give them.
Because of Mr. Beverly, learning seems to be really fun. It's more like a game instead of the teacher telling you this is what we're going to be doing.
It's a team effort to really win Mystery Skype. Do the Rocky Mountains run through your state? No. No.
I mean, really, it takes a team to do anything in life. And this is a chance for them to experience that collaboration.
Are you in Baja, California?
You can see those light bulbs going off and just that connection that they're making. How better to do that than to actually connect with other kids all over the world?
Do you have dry weather?
Yes, we do have.
Technology empowers our class to be enabled to learn beyond our four walls. I'm just a passionate educator who wants to make an impact for kids. I'll take risks to try to expand their learning beyond what they could have ever imagined.
Are you in Mexico City?
Yes, we are.
All right, so I'll show a short little video here in just a second of my classroom, but these are a couple pictures of us actually doing Mystery Skype. So in my room, I have it set up to try and keep all of my students engaged and working the whole time. I have different jobs that they do. So like these students right here, they're what I call my inquirers. So they're going to be the students that are having the actual face-to-face conversation with the other class or the other students. And they're going to be asking the questions to the class that we're Skyping and then answering the questions that the other class they're asking. We have mappers. So mappers, we have about a week and a half or 2 weeks at the beginning of the school year we do our map unit. And then we're able to pull those in and review those and use those throughout the whole year. So we use paper-based maps. We use Google Maps on iPads, on computers. So we have the technology there. We have let's see, other jobs we have our I call them our question wizards. They come up with the questions that we're actually going to ask, so that those students use a lot of logical reasoning and thinking skills. But those jobs just kind of help keep the students engaged and working throughout the whole time. So this is just a short little clip of my class doing a mystery Skype with a class from Colorado.
Yes.
All right, so then typically what we do, one thing that I always like to do at the end of our mystery Skypes once we figure out where each class is located, I typically try and give the students 5 to 10 minutes to ask questions back and forth with the class that we're Skyping with. I always find that, at least in my classroom, my students get so used to our tiny little slice of the pie in Knoxville, Iowa, where they think everything's the exact same in Knoxville as it is all around the world or the U.S. Probably one of the most interesting Skypes that we had was with a class in New York City. It was a 4th grade class, but they were in a high-rise building where their school was at. Outside of their window, they took their computer and held it to the window, and you could see the Empire State Building up over the top of the other buildings. And one thing that we asked at the end, one of the students, and it was odd at the time, they asked, how many of you live in a house? And nobody raised their hands. Everybody lived in an apartment. And my students couldn't believe that. They didn't understand why. So then when the teacher went back to the window and held the camera to the window, they could see that there's no houses, there's no green space. Well, then we did the same thing. We took our camera to the window and showed them out our window, and there's tons of grass and open fields, and they couldn't believe it. They'd never seen anything like that before. So it was just interesting how excited that made my students, and how a light bulb kind of flicked on that, hey, everything's not just the same here, and it's different around the world, and they were really excited to kind of keep Skyping the rest of that school year. So it was a good one for us to start with. So the next part, never hurts to ask. So one way that I like to use Skype is by getting guest speakers to come to my classroom. At first I was apprehensive at emailing or asking just kind of random people or experts in certain fields to come and Skype. But what I found is a lot of them are willing, and they don't mind as long as you can kind of work with their schedule. So what I do, or what I've done in the past, now I just have a running list or running doc, is if we're learning about dinosaurs, I'll look through kind of the materials that we're covering or working on, and I'll try and find some people that maybe are experts in that field. So this picture shows how my students met with Philip Curry. He's a paleontologist, and he's actually one of the stories from our reading materials that we use. So we read the story about him, and then we had him Skype with us the following week. So it was really neat and interesting to read about him and then have that face-to-face conversation with him. We also, every year, we have a weather unit in 3rd grade, and then I have, in the last few years, it's been Brett McIntyre, but a meteorologist from somewhere in Des Moines. They Skype with us and talk about meteorology, how they got into it, do a couple labs or experiments with our class. But just don't hesitate to put yourself out there and kind of try and track those people down. Connect on Twitter, find their Twitter handles, and shoot them a tweet. I know I don't have it on here, but we can get it on here. There's a list through Skype of authors that are willing to Skype with you. And I was just on that list last week, and I probably looked at 10 different websites of authors, and they all had a request a Skype link there. So it's like I said, it never hurts to ask, and the worst they can say is no, and you're in the same situation you were before. So.
And Matt mentioned they were willing. Brett McIntyre did it from his home the last time, so he was sitting there in his regular clothes. You could just see his living room in the background, so he's willing to do it even if he's not at the studio, which is kind of cool to see. This one is just a quick little video. Once again, never hurts to ask. This is a Yellowstone park ranger. We talk about animal traits and ecology. So I sent them a tweet, and they ended up willing to do this. So this is just a quick little video just showing us talking with a Yellowstone park ranger.
You're welcome. My name is Ryan, and do you know how much teeth a wolf has? Oh, how many teeth a wolf has? Well, I guess I never counted. We could look, couldn't we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times 4. What do we got? 36. I think thereabouts, yes. An approximation, maybe around 36 teeth. Thank you. You're welcome.
So that's another Skype that I do every year. One thing that's nice with the Yellowstone Park Rangers is they always kind of talk to what I'm teaching or what or whatever. And then they do a nice job at the end taking questions like that, and they have tons of fossils and skulls and skeletons and everything that they can pull out and show to answer a lot of questions. And then last one, This is just a little video clip from our Skype with Brett McIntyre.
My name is Anna, and what do you have to learn in college to be a weatherman or girl?
In college, I went to Iowa State, and I did meteorology there. That really, in Iowa State is, I think, the only college that has that you can do meteorology as a major. Northern Iowa, I think, has a few classes you can take, but so I had to either take Iowa State or I would have to go to like Oklahoma or Kansas. So I went to Iowa State and I did 4 years there, and they actually have a whole meteorology program with a bunch of different weather classes, and they do really good at it. It's a lot of math. You don't always really think of it like that, but there's a lot of different math classes that you have to take, and a lot of the weather and the equations to figure out how all of the stuff works with our atmosphere. A lot of math and science. So if you want to be a good meteorologist, you got to practice the math. So it's pretty good to be ready for college.
Thank you.
Yep.
A nice little plug for your science and math people too, some real life skills where they're needed.
All right, so that's pretty much, I know it was a quick rundown or run through. I strongly suggest going on that Skype in the Classroom website and just taking some time to click and look at all those resources. It's kind of overwhelming, especially right now, just to go through all of that. So when you have some time, just go through and see what all it has to offer. Don't hesitate as well. If you have questions about anything later on that you think of maybe, my Twitter is on here, so you can contact me that way. Or here later this afternoon. But before we turn it over to Michael, does anybody have any questions with Skype or about Skype?
How long do your mystery hangout or mystery Skypes?
Mystery Skypes?
Yeah.
The actual mystery Skypes where we're just doing like the 20 questions trying to figure out where they're at, they can take anywhere from 10 minutes to 45 minutes or an hour. A lot of it just depends kind of on what you and the other classroom or teacher are wanting to do. I've had, sometimes it just works out where we ask questions perfectly, where we just nail it down where they're at. Other times when we get the hang of it and have it figured out and the other class knows what they're doing, we'll actually go down to where the city is, or we'll try and get on a Google map and actually narrow it right down to their building. That takes a little longer. So yeah, it just kind of depends on what you're wanting your students to do and how much time you have. But typically, we're probably right around 20 to 30 minutes.
And the questions the kids ask get better as the year goes on. So at the beginning of the year, the kids never done a Skype before. Are you on Earth? Well, yeah. Are you in the United States? So they get a lot better with their questioning. Are you east of Mississippi? Are you in the Midwest? Are you?
Just kind of their logical reasoning as far as if they ask if you're north of Iowa and we say no, and then they say, are you in Minnesota? That just kind of wasted a question because they just said they weren't north of Iowa. So yeah, as the year progresses, it's fun to sit back and watch how they just kind of pick up on how it should go.
After you have your mystery Skypes, do you get the teacher's email where you guys can communicate later on and do like, I don't know, letters and stuff back and forth versus just on Skype?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of mine, just like I said, it comes from Twitter. I find them on Twitter. I use hashtags and just search like mystery Skype, and then I just add them that way or follow them on Twitter. And then once you add them on contacts, they'll go into your actual Skype contact book, and then I just make notes there, and I know who I've worked with in the past. And then yeah, there's a couple teachers where I've started working with them on mystery Skype, and there's one that's in Chicago now that I do a poetry unit with every year. So it's just kind of progressing using technology and actually working with that class year after year now.
One other teacher in our district that was trying to start using Skype, one of her biggest frustrations of learning how to do it is, how do I actually start? And a safe way to start is just Skyping with another classroom in your own building. It's a nice way to test it out, make sure your equipment works, make sure the audio is connected to your smart board or however you're going to do it that way. Practice your jobs. That was one thing that the teacher benefited from was coming in to watch a Skype going on in his room, but not being in charge of it at all. See the different jobs the kids have and the tasks that they're involved with, and that's kind of nice to see too. And I know Matt would be more than willing to help share that information too.
Yeah, I can share out the jobs that I have. Like I said, I think I have 6 to 8 different jobs, and you can find different teachers that have jobs as well on the Skype website. These are just kind of ones that I picked and chose and put together for my classroom and what works well for me.
Other questions?
Alrighty. Thank you.
All right, so my name is Michael Splavec. This is my 4th year teaching 4th grade in Knoxville. Haven't had any jobs before that. This is fresh out of college for me. I'm going to talk about Quizlet. I just recently found out about Quizlet. My wife teaches at the high school, and she's been using Quizlet with her Spanish classes, and I kind of took it and ran because I thought it was something that was way too cool for my students not to be doing. So what Quizlet is, if you don't know what it is, it's an online flashcards. It provides many different ways for students to practice vocabulary in school and as well as outside of school. I got my students signed up probably about a month ago, and I have kids coming to me every morning telling me about how they practiced their Quizlets last night. They were practicing their states and capitals, or they were practicing their reading vocabulary or math vocabulary or whatever it was, and telling me how I go on every once in a while and play the games and things and try to be high on the leaderboard, and they always tell me how great it was to beat me. So it's kind of a fun way for them to compete and different things. And like it says, in-class games that get students excited about practicing vocabulary. One way that Quizlet uses is called Quizlet Live. Well, actually, I'm going to have you guys go through one today with some Christmas things to kind of have some fun with that. So you get to see what it's like to be a student, as well as see some of the teacher screenshots as well. So what can you do with Quizlet? When you create a Quizlet or a set of cards for your students, there's tons of different things they can do. If you're on this as well, these are all linked to one of my Quizlets that I created. So you can go to this and actually click on them and see what it's like to go through it. So like with the Learn, you can see there it says students practice by matching what they think the definition is, a good way to practice new vocabulary after using the flashcards. Flashcards, just as simply as what we would write out with our hands or what we would have students create, it's just you get the front side of the card and then the definition on the back. Writing, students practice typing new words that you've entered for them to study. Could be used as spelling practice or different things as that. Spelling, the Quizlet will actually tell you what the definition of the word will be. It'll say it out loud, so if they have headphones or just on the computer, and then the students have to translate that into type it out. And then testing, students will fill in blank questions, matching questions, and multiple choice questions to practice that. So just to study, there's 5 different ways that students can choose on their own to study. So when we have computer lab time, I say get on Quizlet and practice any of the sets that I've given them, and they can use that and kind of have fun with practicing that new vocabulary. Some games, so after they've practiced or they've studied, I kind of let them go play the games. This is where I kind of get into the fun of it. So I'll go on and do the matching every once in a while, and you're matching definitions or pictures to the vocabulary word, and then it's counting how long it takes you, and it gets the leaderboard, and all the students have their name on there, and it's a lot of fun. Gravity, kind of similar to the write or spell on the study side, where there's a word falling from the sky, and you have to type in the definition or the word before it hits the ground. And then live, which is something that we'll go to in a little bit. It's an awesome practice for students, forces collaboration and teamwork if used that way. And like I said, we'll do one in just a moment. Here's some screenshots. I actually had my class go through one of these just the other day on Friday and took some screenshots of the teacher view and what the teacher sees, so like what I would see or what you would see as you went through your class, and then what the students would see. So we'll kind of go through a few of these and just kind of explain how it looks and what you're doing there. So here's the initial page that you'll get to. Once you have all your students entered in, they'll come up and they'll get randomly assigned a team. So just random, and you can shuffle it if you see if Hallie and Brady aren't good together, you can shuffle those teams really quick and just get them onto new teams, and then you'll start the game after that. So go back. Once you've started the game, it'll come up with the leaderboard and kind of the live tracking of how many questions they've got right. It'll pop up, if a student gets a question wrong, it'll pop up red and they'll go back to 0. And then obviously the team that wins will make it all the way to the end. A nice thing that I really like about Quizlet also is that when you get to the end, instead of it just being over, they force you to go back through and make sure that you've looked at all the questions again, looked at those words. So they show you what words did we know as a group. So they go through all the ones that we got correct, and then at the end of that, if you missed any, it goes through what do we need to learn still. So it has them forcing that practice over and over and over. From the student side of it, the login page is almost exactly the same as like Kahoot or other things that we might have already done in the room. So they type in the game code, type in your name. Sometimes if we're doing it just on their own, we'll have them just type in a funny name or whatever they want. But if they're working collaboratively with other students, I try to use their real name so that they're doing what they can meet up easily without having to figure out who wrote Baller 75 or something like that. Once they get assigned their teams, this screen will pop up. They'll have to go find their teammates. Another really fun way that I like to have them do the Quizlet Lives is there's no talking. I don't let them talk to each other. So you'll see on the next page, once the game has started, you don't have all the answers on your screen. You have to work with your student, with your team. So you'll see your other two classmates that you're working with, but you might not have the answer to the definition that comes up on top. And so you have to count on that other person, or you have to work collaboratively to make sure that you get the right answer. And you want to get it quickly, obviously, because it's competition against others. So what I would like everyone to do is, could I have everyone on your computer please go to Quizlet.live and then enter in that game code 805203 and then type in your name and wait until we have a majority of people. We'll go through. Yeah, we'll wait just a couple more seconds for everyone to get logged in. Make sure everybody's on. So you can kind of see, as this is kind of like live tracking, you can see all the people kind of showing up. And it's almost the exact same as Kahoot. If you have an issue with how a student's maybe typing in their name, they put something that you don't want to be out there, you just go ahead and find their name, and you can click on that and get rid of them, and then have them log back in just the same as Kahoot. So I think we've got just about everyone, I would think. So I'm going to go ahead and create the game. So you can see around your seats, you've got randomly assigned to people. You can see who you're with. I think it's kind of fun, and I know my students get excited about what animal they are. They're always hoping that they get their favorite animal. I've got one student in my class that is just overly obsessed with great white sharks, and he's always angry when someone else sitting next to him gets the great white shark and he doesn't. And he keeps telling me I have to put him on the team for great white sharks, but I don't have any control over that. So I just say, maybe next time, I never know. Who knows? So I'm going to have you guys go ahead and start. I'll click the start game, and then you'll see on my screen that scoreboard will track on, and then you guys can start. We'll have you guys just doing the silent collaborating working there. So go ahead. So just a reminder, you might not have all the answers on your screen. You got to trust your partners, trust the people around you, hopefully that they're answering the questions right. Matching the picture to the word. I will tell you, it does not. There are not that many nice things that happen in my room. If you get a question wrong in my room, you are in trouble with everybody else in the classroom. You've got some dirty looks coming your way. So So as you can see, the Pumas were the champions. So congratulations, Shelby, Sarah, Fred, and Lori. But if I go ahead and I click on continue to stats, you guys can look and see. It should slowly pop up on your screens, I believe. What did we learn? And we can kind of all click through these. It won't go through mine, so if you want to go ahead and look through there, and you can see kind of the pictures and what words they matched up to. Okay. So. If you were in my classroom, you would hear my students screaming and yelling to play about 10 more times, because that's how we do it in my room.
So when you don't do the silent version, do they like get together then?
Yeah, they just kind of, they'll sprint across the room with their computer in their hand, and they will find a place to sit down, and they'll all sit next to each other. I tell them all to line up their computers so they can see everybody's screen, and then you've got kids pointing and looking and trying to find that right word. So usually what I do is I tend to have about 2 or 3 where they're working collaboratively in a group, and then I have the last one, we'll do like 3 or 4, and the last one I'll have them sit silently at their seats, because by that time they should have a good practice, plus the practice that we've already done in class, to know those vocabulary words, hopefully. Yeah. No, we are not. We have one computer lab of 30 computers for our grade level of 5 sections. So we snag the computer lab whenever we can. This usually takes about, 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how many you do. So we try to just steal it as quick as we can from somebody else.
So then can they use their phone to get on Quizlet Live?
Yep, there's an app for Quizlet on, I believe, pretty sure it's both Apple and Android that they can use for any of this. So just to kind of show you what is available in Quizlet, when you set up your teacher account, you get this dashboard on the side of your page that has a lot of different things. Quizlet has a lot of diagrams that they can go through. You can see a lot of the fun stuff that they have out there already created. If you have teaching partners, I know that I work with another teacher. She teaches reading and writing and language arts, and I teach math, science, and social studies. So I create all the math, science, and social studies ones. She creates all the vocabulary for our reading stories and our reading materials, and then we just share them with each other so we can have them for our classes. So how I have it set up, I've got my classes put in there. I've got all these folders set up so that I can just give the students what they need for that lesson. You know, if we're reading, right now we're reading the story called Jose Born to Dance, they only have the Jose Born to Dance vocabulary cards. Or we're working on chapters 2 and 3 in math, which is multiplication units. They only have the multiplication vocabulary words to practice. So I can take away vocabulary words that they have and give them new ones when we get to new things, so they're not overwhelmed with 10,000 things to try to study from. They just have the specific things that they need. Like I said down there as well. Some more things, some examples of integration. I've got math vocabulary in there, the Midwest states and capitals, some reading vocabulary, and then our science vocabulary that we just finished up. If you guys want to take a look through some of those that I've created and practice and play, you can get yourselves on the leaderboard and see if you can beat some of my students. That'd be fine. I'd be all about it. They'd probably be mad at me when I got back, though. So.
And things are hyperlinked to each of those pictures.
Yeah, so all you have to do is click on the pictures and you can go see those, yeah. And just to kind of review, the student options, all of these options are free. There is an upgraded teacher version. I think it's like $35 for the year, so it's not super expensive, but I have only gone with the free teacher version, and I've loved every single feature of it. It's been great for me and in my classroom. Like I said, it's a great way to practice vocabulary. Students think it's fun and not educational. I mean, there was one day for the first time we tried it with my class, I think we played at least 12 in a row, Quizlet Lives, and then I had them practicing later, and they just lost their minds and loved it. Again, practicing vocabulary can be boring, but this can make it fun. Any questions?
I don't have a question. I just have something to add. I love Quizlet too. We have, and my cooperating teacher and I have done the same thing. We have everything under one account.
Yeah.
We linked it to our website. And we have our spelling list for the year. And so kids can use it anywhere. So they can study. Kids have said, oh, we were going on a trip to Wisconsin, so I played Quizlet all the way there and study this.
Yeah.
One of my parents was overseas, called home to see if his son had practiced his spelling words. He goes, I forgot my list at school. He goes, no problem. I know exactly where you can find it. So, that's
great.
just a good way to expand it beyond the school day, too.
Yep, definitely.
All right, if there are not any other questions, the last two segments we have are on virtual reality and augmented reality. Just for a quick pulse in the room, how many of you guys are staying around for the afternoon? Okay, are most people heading back to school or something? Okay. How many of you have actually done a virtual reality demo before, so you know what it is? Most people. Okay. So we brought our kit. We bought a class set of 30 phones, headsets, a Wi-Fi router, and things to go with it for about $7,000 with a couple grants we got earlier this year. I don't know many other districts that took the plunge and bought a whole class set, but we were one of the few that did, and our kids have loved it. We've used it from kindergarten all the way up to seniors and all the way in between, and it's been super engaging for our kids. The most popular thing we've used it for is for Google Expeditions. It's mostly 360-degree images, so if you have kids or staff members that say, oh, I don't do well with that, I just get dizzy, well, they can just use the phone by itself without having to put the headset on, and they still get that 360-degree view, and it's not moving. It's still images and then just 360 shots of front, up, down, left, right, everywhere around them. Google Expeditions is organized two different ways. There's a Google Drive view, which isn't super user-friendly. It has a short description on what your expeditions are about. There's 711 and more growing. And then there's a website view, which is a little more descriptive, that has 506 added to it. I'm guessing the website just hasn't been updated as recently. But out of this 711, in our district, we've gone to the San Diego Zoo and look at animals. We've been to museums to look at dinosaur bones. In our high school health class, we did a inside the human body, and they did the different stages of a pregnancy, from conception to birth, and it was very interesting. The kids handled it really well compared to how I might have done it as a high schooler. But this is compatible with Apple and Google. We bought Asus Zen phones with ours. It really doesn't matter. It just has to be a iPhone 4 or newer if you have iPhones with them. Other popular apps that we've used, the Google Earth, VR, Google Maps, Street View. So if you've ever looked for directions from how to get to place, you can have a satellite view. Imagine doing that with a headset, though, from the sky and looking around, going to Google Street View and actually seeing the outside of a building or a structure like the Eiffel Tower or a cool landmark like that. YouTube, you can search virtual reality playlist, and there's a YouTube VR list of things that come up, and those are all live videos. So if you want your kids to be completely immersed in something and have video moving around them, that's pretty cool. We went to a 5th grade social studies classroom and had the kids see what it was like in a war reenactment. So they were on the field, that's where they had their camera set up, of a live Civil War reenactment. And they had soldiers walking by, they were shooting their guns, and it felt like the students were right there. So that was a quick demo of letting the kids know what it was like, and it gave them a lot of prompts of what to journal about or what to write about. Secondary people, New York Times VR, they took the plunge too. They have all sorts of content of live events of things going on in our world today, and that's a really good one as well. Don't have or don't want VR headsets, you can use Google Expeditions without the headsets and just use the full screen mode like I mentioned earlier, where you just hold your phone and you look around. It's nice to have a swivel chair or a chair with wheels because you do a lot of turning and looking up and down, and it's nice to do it in a 2D setting as well. So you can see some pictures of different age groups we've had do it, and they all love it. It's really engaging for them. So we bought the VR kit 2 years ago, or actually last spring, and the next thing we're going to try to do is I've been looking for something to create our own content, where we have kids that are wanting to go visit the post office or go visit a local building or a local facility, and we don't have a way to go do it because we're only limited to one field trip per year per class, so we're going to try to go with an option like this where we can record our own virtual reality content. These other options, a little out of our price range. $700 we could probably swing, though, where this camera just came out November 24th and allows us to film our own VR content. I think there's endless possibilities with this. We can have high school journalism classes and high school yearbook classes take this camera onto the sideline and get in the middle of a huddle and let everybody else know what that's like. Go in the locker room when they're dressed and do a little halftime pep talk from the coach and things like that. So it's going to be kind of neat. And that's it for VR. But unless we want to do a demo, I've got stuff that we can do, something in the afternoon if we want to. It's really going to be kind of up to what you guys want, but we'll save that for the sake of time. And yeah, we have 30 of them, so feel free to join us this afternoon if you'd like to see what that's like. Questions on VR stuff? Most of you are probably more familiar with it, but I thought there were a couple nice additions there too. Yeah.
Okay, so I went to the website with the Google Expeditions
Mm-hmm.
and the 506. And then how do you open them up?
A second to load. Okay, so do you see the title of this? Children's Village, Thailand. You'd have to go actually download the Google Expeditions app, search for that title, and then you can actually see the live pictures. Does that make sense? So you'd have to go through the app to find it. But this is a searchable way, or a nice way to see how it's used, and it has pre-made lessons, and it gives a script for teachers to read. But yeah, you'd have to go through the app to actually see the videos.
That's what I was going to add that too. The pictures on there of the kids using the iPads for this, that was my class last year, before we had bought any of this. It's super nice for the teacher because the teacher leads the students through it, and it gives you a paragraph prompt for each 360 video to talk about, well, what's going on here. It even has like points, so it tells the students to turn and look at a specific thing. So if you're at the Eiffel Tower, or we were in Antarctica, so it's talking about all these different places to look, and it has them turn, and you can actually see there's a little smiley face on the teacher's one, so you can know that all your students are looking there, and you can see, oh, well, Johnny just turned away. Okay, let's get Johnny back. It's really, really nice.
The Google Expeditions is definitely geared towards teachers, where there's built-in lessons and scripts for them, so that is nice. Other VR questions?
There is another good website for Google Expeditions, and it's linked to a map and has pins on the map, so it's easier to find geographically things that are. I'll add it to the agenda. That might be the best way to do it. Anyway, just one more way to search, and I think there are 640 with the lesson plans and all of that. So I'll add that to the agenda.
Very good, thank you. And there's, oh, go ahead.
We have Chromebooks for 2nd through 5th grade. I'm kind of dumb about this, but can you put the app, like a Chromebook extension or anything like that? Can you put the app on a Chromebook?
We don't have Chromebooks in our district. That'd be a good question.
What I found
I'm always lagging because I'm interested. So.
What we've found is we have Chromebooks that are capable of having Android apps and stuff like that, but the app itself doesn't work very well with our Chromebooks. I'm assuming that someday it will work well, but right now the technology isn't there to make it really work the way it's supposed to.
So maybe on a newer version? Is that? Maybe not.
Shouldn't you be able to with the Google Play Store? I feel like with the Google Play Store, you should be able to download it and it would work, right?
I can jump in with a couple thoughts. The newest models of Chromebooks, if they have the touch screens with a stylus, they are capable of downloading apps from the Android store. So right now there's just a handful of models, but most of the store just came out of beta. So any of the Android apps that you're running on a Chromebook are really rough at this point. There are a couple districts that have the Chromebooks that are capable of running Android apps on their Chromebooks. Most of you, if you have Chromebooks that's been purchased before this last fall, probably don't have any capability of running the Android apps at this point in time.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, the second topic is pretty new to me, so it's not super extensive, but I did find some really good resources to go along with augmented reality. So I was on Twitter yesterday looking at this, and I found this link. So I'm going to have you guys click on this picture, Why Augmented Reality Will Transform Education. It takes you guys to a nice visual, and it's really long. And it has a nice infographic. And I want you guys to look at that, and then we're going to have a moment where we're all going to share out what jumped off the page at you as surprising or something new that you learned that you thought was interesting. So I'll give you guys a couple minutes to read through that, and then we'll try and get 4 or 5 people to share out. There's lots of good information and data on there. one more minute to look through that infographic. Okay. With a really loud voice, maybe you don't need a microphone, is there anybody who'd like to share out something that jumped off the page to them or something you learned by looking through that information? Anybody willing to go first? What's something you learned from that infographic that surprised you? Yes?
Well, towards the middle, I guess, where it says the industries that have been involved in this work, education, public safety, healthcare. Actually, when you look at those 6 boxes, that covers a lot of what our students are going into, and thinking about police officers and everything going through the public safety, like a lot of their training is with virtual reality, and then even just the healthcare, how many different ways they were said that Nebraska had actually tried to look into, or they're looking into like revolutionizing their healthcare education, like how are they teaching how to do open heart surgery and things like that. So just looking at that many broad industries and how many of our students will be going into those and using virtual reality.
Very good, thank you. Career college ready, those hit on a lot of those, you're right. Anybody else? Okay, the best way I can explain what is augmented reality and how it's different than virtual reality, there's an extra dimension in the digital world where things can be put in different locations. So if you've ever been in the mall, I've seen that there's some banners, scan this image and a YouTube video pops up. Or scan over the title of this book and another video or another picture pops up. So if you remember the big Pokemon Go phase that went through our society, it's exactly like that, where there's things hidden and kids can go out and find them. We can do this around our schools. There's lots of fun things to do with it. And then the different ways you can use augmented reality within your classroom. Homework mini lessons, book reviews like librarians. If you have a title of a book or the front cover of a book and you want a kid to do a book report on it, all they have to do is scan the title of the book and then somebody else's book report pops up where a kid does a 1 or 2 minute synopsis of the book or gives their book review for it. Yearbooks, if you want to have videos linked within a yearbook, they just have to scan over the top of it. Word walls, lab safety, flashcards for deaf and hard of hearing. Lots of fun things with that. The most popular apps that I've seen so far related to augmented reality are on this next slide. And I'm going to add, the one after that. Compatible devices. iPhones, seems to be more iPad, Apple oriented so far. I don't think the Google has caught up with it quite yet. Is that accurate? Anybody know? Do you know?
They have a project going on right now. I can share about it in general.
Okay. So yes, these are compatible devices. I know our older iPads will not be compatible with it. And then these are the most popular educational apps I've seen, even down to the preschool, kindergarten kids where they can color a picture, and then that picture will pop up and have their coloring on it, and that thing will move around. So that's really fun for those younger kids too. So those are the most popular ones I've seen. These first, Erasmus for sure, you can create your own content within it. Crayola is more just coloring books that can come back to life for you. And then this developer, Pop Art Toys, has a lot of different apps too. So those are a few to get you started if you're wanting to look at AR stuff. Okay, that's it for the AR stuff. And I have a demo, but it's on my iPad, so I'll have to show you guys this afternoon if you guys would like to see that. Go ahead.
I'd just add that if some of you are familiar with Google Expeditions, how they kind of rolled that out, where they had pilot schools doing Google Expeditions for virtual reality. I don't know where the mic's at. They're doing the same thing with augmented reality right now. So they have an augmented reality platform that they're rolling out across the United States. So it will be similar to the Google Expeditions, where hopefully in a couple of years or a year or so, I don't know, you'll be able to, there'll be a whole nother interface similar to what right now is Google Expeditions, but it'll all be augmented reality. And so the demos they're showing right now are like being able to present a strand of DNA in the middle of the classroom, and everybody can view through their view or walk around and It's using geographical-based augmented reality. So in the past with augmented reality, you'd have a marker or something that you could see through your lens. In this case, you could place the augmented reality thing in the middle of your room, and then all the kids could walk around and do it. So I think Google's working towards it, but it's not widely available yet.
Very good. Questions about AR, augmented reality type stuff? Yes?
So you mentioned the yearbook.
Mm-hmm.
Explain that a little more for me.
So you imagine the traditional yearbook has pictures and words in it, right? If they were to put let's say you use the Erasmus app. If the student has an Erasmus app on their phone, they scan over a certain picture, let's say it's a picture of a football player, it can take you to a highlight of that game that's linked through the app. So by using the Erasmus app, they can view a video on top of that picture, and it just pops up in virtual world.
So does it have to, can they use any AR app?
It has to be specific to what it was created in.
Okay.
So I'd probably have a little Erasmus symbol or a QR code right next to it where they can download it, but then watch the video with the picture too. Yeah, that picture prompts them to. So the app is your key to opening that picture. The video is in the Erasmus app, and if a kid has the Erasmus app, they can scan over that image and then the video would pop up. So I think it's in its baby stages. VR is a little more advanced where it's 2 or 3 years old, but I think AR is in its baby stages where it's going to be going.